The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here we are in the People's House, charged with the responsibility of taking taxpayers' money and making sure that it's spent properly with proper oversight. And yet, we are about to vote on a bill that is set to top-line numbers that has not been subject to debate in this chamber. Let's revisit how we got here. Our friends on the other side of the aisle said they were going to do a budget, and they didn't do a budget. They couldn't produce the votes. So then they decided, Mr. Speaker, that they were going to do a caps agreement. And they proposed a caps agreement, and only because of a self-executing rule did they deem the numbers to which the appropriator should write the bills. No debate, none at all. Just pull the numbers out of the air, put them in a self-executing rule, and that's what we're right to. Mr. Speaker, this bill is going nowhere. It is a waste of time for the House of Representatives to have been spending on a bill that's absolutely going nowhere. And my motion sends this bill back to the committee where hopefully we can come to some form of agreement on a caps number. Now, we've got a lot to worry about. At the end of this year, if we don't have agreement, we're going to trigger a sequester that nobody wants. It would be devastating to our country. But instead of spending our time, Mr. Speaker, on working out an agreement among ourselves that the people expect us to do, it's our job. Here we are, spending our time, late night votes on amendments, and then finally to move a bill across the floor of the House that is going nowhere. We are all frustrated by it. Last year, Mr. Speaker, I spent the better part of a year with a number of my colleagues on this side and that side, and some from the Senate, on a process reform package. And we got close to the finish line. We didn't make all the changes that everybody wanted. We didn't have the votes for that. And remember, the threshold for passage was 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats out of 16 people. That's a pretty high threshold in this chamber. And we got our 5 Republicans to agree. And I got to commend guys like John Yarmuth and Derek Kilmer on the other side because they were yes, because they recognized how important changing this process was to this institution. But 4 Democrats voted present. Present on a package that would fundamentally change for the better the budget and appropriations process that we use in the House of Representatives, in the people's house. The people deserve better, Mr. Speaker. So it is my intent to refer this bill back to committee. Now, it doesn't stop there with just top-line numbers. Besides the failure to write a budget, to have a debate on a caps deal, to put forth workable legislation, Democrats have also neglected the humanitarian and security crisis at our border. Today marks 50 days since the administration request came for supplemental funds on our border. You can't deny the issues down there. 144,000 apprehensions on our southwest border last month. 4,500 people a day that we're apprehending. We've tried 17 times to bring up legislation to address the humanitarian crisis on our border, and 17 times we've been denied. Food and shelter for migrant families and unaccompanied children, funding urgent medical care and transportation, paying the growing overtime cost for DHS men and women on the front lines. So, Mr. Speaker, my point is pretty simple. It's not cute. It's not a gotcha moment. It's not an underlying policy issue that's hard to explain. is simply this. Let's send this bill back to the appropriators. Let's work collectively to get a caps deal so that we can save our country from us. And I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to the Republican motion to recommit. The gentlelady is opposed to the motion.
Gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes.
A budget, my friends, is a statement of our values, and an appropriations bill puts those values into action. That's why this bill invests for the people. We have chosen to strengthen critical domestic initiatives that give every American a better chance at a better life. We've invested in a mix of defense, diplomacy, development that will keep our country safe and restore our reputation in the world. This MTR is a chance, it's an opportunity for Republicans to share these priorities and explain how they do things differently. And with this MTR, the minority is giving a clear answer. They have no plan, no priorities, no idea of where we go for the good of our country. Instead of working to strengthen our nation, Republicans' only proposal is to slash funding that working families depend on. Just consider, my friends, the many critical activities that this MTR attacks. Head Start centers for our children, child care assistance for families, support for students and teachers, job training for unemployed workers, resources to address the opioid epidemic, life-saving medical research at the NIH, water infrastructure products, energy efficiency and transformational science. All of these initiatives would be delayed. Mr. Speaker, the minority wants to tell you that this amendment is about responsible funding levels, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So let me set the record straight, my friends. Unless Congress acts, unworkable budget caps that snap back into place in fiscal year 2020 will cause deep cuts to both defense and non-defense spending. This MTR would jeopardize our national security. It would slash critical services for children and families and take our country back. We cannot, we must not allow our country to careen off this fiscal cliff. Instead, we must raise the caps, invest for the people, bolstering our national security, addressing critical needs across our country. House Democrats have made our position on raising the caps clear. It is time, my friends, for President Trump to rein in his assistant, Mr. Mulvaney, and agree to a reasonable caps deal. That's right. But Congress can't wait for the White House to come to its senses. If we do, we might very well have another government shutdown. To that end, the House voted to deem funding levels that are reasonable, responsible, allow us to move our country forward. When Republicans were in the majority, they also deemed funding levels, my friends. Unlike ours, however, their funding levels were wildly unrealistic. We have chosen a different path, and that's why I am so proud to support these bills, which ensure that America is safe, strong, and moving forward. This MTR sets us on a bleaker path, shutting families out of childcare, starving our schools, stopping life-saving research, and sticking our heads in the sand on the climate crisis. The choice is clear. Vote no on the MTR, and let's invest for the people.
That's it.
I yield back.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered on the motion to recommit. The question is on the motion to recommit. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Arkansas.
That I demand a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 5-minute vote on the motion to recommit will be followed by a 5-minute vote on passage of the bill. This is a 5-minute vote.